power brands powering the growth.
Yeah.
And was it that's kind of a playbook that you had in mind?
Ingoing mindset is whichever ones we pick as power brands, we need to be either the number one or the number two brand in that market, ideally number one. And where we cannot lead the game, then probably it's not a power brand in that sense.
So is there a threshold like as ours, just for a particular brand, for it to really say that it's a power brand? Is there a math behind it?
The earlier definition of blockbuster in India used to be 100 crores. Now there are so many 100 crore brands that obviously that number keeps going up. So I don't think, that number is continuously increasing. But for us, definitely we want to have at least 4 to 5 brands that are in the 300 to 400 crore range.
Of late has been this whole anti-obesity, obesity drugs have been like the most wild card that pharma companies have hit in India.
Yeah.
So how are you looking at this? Because Pfizer also globally has through its acquisition has an obesity drug. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of In Conversation with Fortune India. Today we have with us Ms. Meenakshi Nevatia. She is the country president and managing director of Pfizer India. Thank you, Meenakshi, for taking time out today to join us on this conversation. So let me start off with the fact that, Pfizer has completed 75 years and you yourself have completed 3 years as country president. What, according to you, have been, your learnings running an MNC in India, especially in a very challenging market that is, especially when it comes to pharma? What has been your learnings in these 3 years?
No, firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity. I think, we are very proud of hitting 75 years in line with India, which is also achieving its 75 years. So a big milestone for us in Pfizer India. For me, like you said, it's been exactly just about 3 years and a few months. And it's been a really interesting time because I think I've, over this period, my journey started with a very strong commitment from Pfizer globally to make India a priority market. So that's what also attracted me into this role, because not just the Pfizer legacy and the footprint, but also the intent that the global organization had about the importance of India and how it was really critical to bring all our innovation to our country. So that was my starting point. And I think since then, that's really been I would say, my North Star in terms of the journey forward is, really focused on 3 things. I think the first is how do we bring the best of Pfizer globally into our country, which in many cases means new launches, new innovative therapies, but also equally means bringing all of the expertise across the value chain, whether it's in research, development, clinical trials, the analytical the portals, all of it, trying to bring all of that into our country. So I think that's really been one of the big priorities. I think the second is we also have a very strong legacy portfolio in India that comes from some of the previous brands that we have, old established brands in our country. And what we see is that they can really be, it gives us a fantastic platform to then use to build innovation. So I think that's been the second anchor, if I can call it, which is, one is to bring the innovation, but second is also do right by the legacy portfolio, whether we promote it ourselves or with partners. We are trying to do a lot of that. And I think the third big piece of it is what is underlying most organizations is a culture and people that are really feeling like they are winning with the country. So, how do we ride the journey with India? How do we feel very much a part of the India transformation when it comes to healthcare? And that whole piece has been probably the most time consuming in terms of how do we transform our culture, how do we work with the government stakeholders to shape the environment so that, it's all moving in the same direction,
So when you took over, was there a brief in terms of from the headquarters of how differently you need to play the India growth story? For MNCs, India has always been a frontier market, always hiring the promise, but pharma has been a very different story, right? It's not exactly been a market where you had, hitting $1 billion very soon, unlike other consumer segments. How differently did you see this whole journey, at least in these 3 years? And is it any different from what Pfizer has been doing in India over the past?
No, I want to say a lot of it is building on the legacy, but I think that there were two or three clear, I would not say mandates, but clear differences or direction. I think the first was that, we have a very, very strong innovative portfolio, very strong pipeline, and a lot of those products were not yet in our country. Or they were in our country, but they were really quite small and incremental. So the implication of that was a lot of focus on making some clear choices. We call it the winning choice framework, for lack of a better word, but really trying to focus on a few products which we can really, kind of build the momentum, drive the growth, because they were very relevant for our country. Whether it was our cardiovascular product Eliquis, whether it's the vaccination that we have with Prevenar, our lung cancer portfolio, our hematology portfolio with Enonza. I mean, the list goes on, but products that are extremely relevant to India, and also which Pfizer has been very proud of in other markets. So it wasn't about growth. Growth can come from anywhere. It was growth is absolutely paramount, but ideally should come from these innovative therapies where we clearly have a right to lead and a right to win, and a lot needs to be done to shape the market. So I think that was that was one clear priority for me, which is, yes, I want to be able to, with my team, grow the organization.
It was your own framework that you came after taking charge, that this is how the portfolio will have, this will be the power brands, because this is something very similar to what the Hindustan Unilever did, right?
Yeah.
Power brands powering the growth.
Yeah.
And was it that's kind of a playbook that you had in mind, that you are very clear on day one that this is what I want to?
If I reflect back, I think it's a very good question. I think there were a few clear mandates from Pfizer Global, right? Which is, growing some of the innovative portfolio, ensuring that we are, kind of driving access, which is we're not just, on the tip of the iceberg, but we're really going deep across the country. And whatever we can to really work in partnership with the government. So those are two or three things that, in every organization, there are 2-3 things that are top down, and this was clearly the top down piece for me. What we did as a team when I started was just try to understand and learn from other companies that had grown. And what we saw, which is no insight, but for us it was an aha moment, that, we call it making big brands bigger, but that whole concept of power brands, whether it's Unilever, whether it's other companies, I think the whole idea being that we need to pick a few bets, we need to pick a few areas and go all out.
Right.
And sometimes that means choices in terms of other brands. We can't do everything, so let's pick a few and really go all out. And when we did that effort of picking a few, it was a function of where we had the innovation that we knew we could win versus what was available in the market. And most importantly, whether there's a huge unmet need in our country. So there's no point there. We've made a lot of choices. There were very many products that we went through, highly innovative, and we said that's not relevant to India. So I think it's that combination of, you're right, it is power brands, but it's a combination of where we felt the innovation makes us really believe that we can win. And secondly, it's extremely relevant for our country. And then we went all out with those brands. So yes, that was definitely a
Could
big
you
pivot.
articulate more on that strategy, on the product strategy? Because unlike in consumer brand, if you identify a power brand, you put the might of your marketing, advertising budget behind it. But pharma is a very different play, right? You don't have that, what do you call it, the advertising vehicle engine that can really push a product down that. So how did that, strategy of first identifying the power brands, and then what is the threshold that you think will make this as power brands? Is there a revenue threshold, or that these are the kind of milestones that these products need to achieve? If they don't, you kind of pull them back.
So I think the ingoing mindset is whichever ones we pick as power brands, we need to be either the number one or the number two brand in that market, ideally number one. And where we cannot lead the game, then probably it's not a power brand in that sense. So I think that is
What's the
definitely a
timeline that
starting
you
point.
give for if you are a number 2 or a number 3 in that particular segment?
I mean, it's not so specific, but I think as long as the ambition is to become the leader and to shape the market, that becomes absolutely critical. I think second is very importantly where we believe that we have a huge saying in our organization about science will win. And we strongly believe that, there are certain therapy areas, whether it's cardiovascular, whether it's anti-infectives, vaccinations, oncology. These are areas where science science leads. And we believe that that is where we are strong. Our science is very strong. Our products are of top quality. Our people are extremely well trained. And that is the game we are playing, which is, how do we make sure our science speaks for itself? And how do we make sure that we can translate our science into benefits for patients? And that's the basis on which we are driving growth. We are not driving growth based on, just share of noise. We are not driving growth based on just, a lot of publicity and activity. We are driving it at the back of our science. So I think that was another big thing, is which are those products where the scientific proposition is so strong that we are absolutely prepared to win, and there we'll go all out. And for us, going all out, unlike a consumer company, it's not, like you said, it's not the advertising dollars or rupees, but it is about where we are putting our sales teams, where we are putting our medical organization, where we are actually, doing what we call real world evidence, which is collecting data, generating data on how the drug is being used, how are patients responding, and so on and so forth. So it is still about resource allocation towards those brands. But those resources are not marketing rupees, they are different type of resources.
So is there a threshold, like as us, just for a particular brand, for it to really say that it's a power brand? Is there a math behind it where you can definitely say that, if this is the kind
the earlier definition of blockbuster in India used to be 100 crores. Now there are so many 100 crore brands that obviously that number keeps going up. So I don't think, that number is continuously increasing. But for us, definitely, we want to have at least 4 to 5 brands that are in the 300 to 400 crore range. And that would feel absolutely right for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, this one interesting aspect that I noticed, it's not, very particular for Pfizer. Generally for MNCs in the pharma, that especially when it comes to Pfizer, I just looked up the decade numbers. The top line has been around 2,000, and then now 2,500 is the peak that in recent years Pfizer has seen. So what's the challenge in, breaking through that year-on-year growth into a new trajectory, into a new thing? $1 billion seems as far away kind of an story. But when you look down at the profitability, the profitability engine looks quite decent, in a 25-30% kind of, profitability as a percentage of sales. That's quite high. So you have robust profits, cash flows are robust. Revenue remains, an engine which kind of, is growing along. But that big power push, what's the story behind that? Why is revenue growth so hard to come by in pharma?
Yeah. No, so I think firstly, maybe just a point of clarification. I think when I speak of Pfizer in India, I speak about an entity which is much beyond just the listed entity. The numbers that you are referring to is the listed entity, right?
Yeah.
Which is focused on a few therapy areas, and it's purely the commercial business. The Pfizer footprint that we talk about, the 6,000 plus employees, the entire footprint that we talk about includes our R&D, includes our manufacturing.
Correct.
Includes our analytics, includes our commercial. And even within commercial, there are certain therapy areas like cancer, oncology, immunology, which are outside of the listed entity. So I'm thinking the bigger picture of Pfizer, and you are looking at the numbers. So,
yeah.
But having said that, the question you asked is still very relevant. But I just wanted to put that in context, that not everything Pfizer does
is captured within the listed entity. That's fair enough. I'm just talking about the listed entity.
Yeah. So I think the way we've seen it is, our growth comes primarily from volume growth, because price is, kind of, although there is an opportunity for price growth, but a lot of our products are in the national list of essential medicine. So it's not like we are continuously looking at pricing growth. It's a question of volume and mix.
And so what is remaining constraint for most pharma MNCs in India, the fact that you will be under price control that limits your ability really to play the price game, and hence you're just focused on volumes?
No, I don't think it's either or. I think all of us are, there are opportunities for pricing that, does happen. But at the same time, we are also equally committed and convinced that in many cases, holding the price or even reducing the price is absolutely critical to drive access. So it is a little bit of a, mixed model in that sense. So if I look at our key products, whether I look at our vaccines, Prevnar 13, we have not increased prices for the last, at least 8-9 years. If I look at our lung cancer product, we've not increased the price. In fact, we've introduced patient access programs that make the net price to patients much lower. For our cardiovascular product, we took a 30% price cut, and now we've not increased since then for the last 3.5 years. So it's not like we're driving our growth through pricing, and that is because we strongly believe that there is so much unmet need in terms of many patients who deserve to get these products who are not getting it, that we are really focused on driving volumes. So that's a conscious choice. It's not like it's either or. It's not like you can't grow it through pricing. But I think the products that we are in, which are largely innovative products, we are more focused on driving access rather than driving pricing. So I think that's just a choice that we have made. Yeah.
And within therapies, where are you seeing, a humongous market or an opportunity, especially within the current portfolio that Pfizer has in India? Within therapies.
I mean, we always look at addressable market, right? So if I pick the maybe the 4 or 5 main areas I talked about, whether it's oncology, whether it's vaccinations, adult vaccination in particular, whether it's cardiovascular with our, stroke prevention product, Eliquis, whether it's migraine, which is a new launch we have, whether it's our anti-infective portfolio. I think in all of these, the opportunity is immense. So I don't think there is a dearth of opportunity for growth in our country. It's just, the choices we've made in terms of geographical growth, where we want to focus, the accounts that we are focusing on, the kind of growth we want, where we want to go to doctors who are prescribing on the basis of science. And so we choose and pick the way we are promoting our products. So these are all choices we make implicitly, but the headroom, honestly, in oncology, vaccinations, cardiovascular, all of these are, huge potential.
Yeah.
And anti-infectives, we just had a new launch in anti-infectives in October last year. And we have been surprised at the uptake because, we knew it was a great product. But, it's just surprised us how much physicians are looking for well-studied, well-documented, rich in data, rich in science products to be able to, manage the patient in ICU better, faster, much more holistically. And so the launch surprised even us in terms of the uptake.
So are you also, since you deal with doctors more, and you said that you focus more on the science, getting science right and that understanding among doctors. So has there been a better understanding of, the science of the drugs within the medical fraternity today than what it was maybe a decade before? Do you see a difference in that since you deal with the fraternity, doctor fraternity?
No,
their ability to, kind of go and say that this is a drug that I would like to prescribe to my patients.
No, I think from the time I've known, I think, our in Indian, the advantage our doctors in India have is they see a much larger volume of patients. And they see patients across all spectrum of the disease, whether it's, early to tertiary, right? So in terms of many of our top, kind of what we call opinion leaders in our country are absolutely qualified and capable and experienced to be global opinion leaders. So I don't think that it's changed as such. I think that was always the case. And we've had absolutely leading physicians in the past, and we still have them. It's just that where we have chosen to focus is, those doctors that truly believe that, the differentiation in science is what's going to give the benefit to patients.
So does it become an urban phenomena when you say that, doctors are willing to believe in the science? Is it a pan-India kind of a thing, or is it, constrained to geographies? Those kind of doctors that you refer to?
No, the curiosity and hunger for science. We do a lot of medical education programs, and the sign-ups we get in tier 2, tier 3 India is equally high. So the hunger to know the science behind a product is there everywhere. I don't think it's restricted to geographies. We may have restricted our activity to geographies, but now we are also expanding. But I don't think that hunger and curiosity is restricted in that sense. Yeah.
And the other thing of late has been this whole anti-obesity, obesity drugs have been like the most wild card that pharma companies have hit in India. So how are you looking at this? Because Pfizer also globally has through its acquisition has an obesity drug. But is there something that the parent is looking at introducing in India and, looking at a, becoming that as one of those power brands, or it's too late now because there's been already a runway that other companies have taken, the other brands have taken?
No, firstly, we believe it's never too late. So I think that is our philosophy that, with the right product, it's never too late because, but of course, the product needs to have an advantage over what's available in the market, whether it's frequency of use or, the actual clinical benefit, efficacy, etc. Pfizer did the acquisition with Metsera with a lot of belief that the portfolio that Metsera had would be unique, would be distinguished, would be differentiated. And we are beginning to see that. Just a few weeks ago, we announced data, Vesper study, and it showed that, the once a month product was, showed a lot of promise in terms of data. So yes, we have a lot of optimism and promise when it comes to our obesity portfolio globally. And all markets are looking at, what we can do to bring the right portfolio into each of our markets. So that effort continues.
Is there a timeline, or does it take long for that kind of products to come into India? Usually what's that at the parent level doesn't necessarily culminate at the subsidiary level, right? So
no, I think in all markets, in fact, just yesterday I was in a meeting where we spoke a little bit about how long it takes to bring drugs into our country. So typically, post-US launch, we are looking at, now we're shortening those timelines.
the window
It used to be 5-6 years. Now it's shortening, and our ambition is to, bring it within 18 to 24 months, not specifically to any disease area, but in general. So I think, the effort is ongoing.
Can you give a sense of how many brands where you've seen the windows timeline shrink between what was introduced globally and what's been introduced in India in terms of brands?
Yeah. So I think, in the past, when we launched one of our anti-infectives, we almost launched 6-7 years after the US, whereas what we've launched just, recently with the newest anti-infective, what was within a year and a half of any global launch, right? So within the same therapy space, anti-infectives, one was 7, one was year and a half.
Right.
Similarly, with our most recent oncology launch in multiple myeloma, we're around 3 years, 2 to 2.5 years. And that's mainly because there were certain requirements regulatory-wise to complete in India before we can launch. So yes, the timelines are squeezing, and, the regulatory pathway in India is also looking at how to accelerate launches. And we are working very actively to see what we can do to bring products quicker.
Can you give us a sense on the deal with Cipla, the brands that have been assigned to Cipla to market? Does that mean that these are not so power brands in that sense, and at some point you might just give them up, these brands away? What's the whole idea behind the deal, the strategy behind the deal?
No, I want to start by saying that whenever we do a partnership, it's not to farm out the tail. That's not the intention in this case. Because it takes a lot of effort to do a partnership. And so wherever we are putting our effort, it's because we believe there is a lot of growth potential. Now, in some cases, in most cases, we believe, we are in the right position to drive that growth. But in some other cases where growth will come from a much bigger distribution footprint, or particularly in the case with Cipla, where, one of the products that they have from us is Corex, which is our cough syrup. And Cipla being a respiratory leader, we believe that with the respiratory leadership that they have, a Corex kind of brand, and they did not have a cough syrup, it was a perfect match. Because, with their respiratory leadership, they could really make this product even much bigger than it was with us, and also with their entire footprint across rural, tier 3, tier 4, where we are not present. So I think all of the initiatives we do with partners is only where we believe there's growth potential. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for us to do a partnership where we don't believe there's growth potential. So, sometimes there is that perception that if you're giving a product to a partner, it means you don't think there's potential. Honestly, if that was the case, we would just leave it. We would not.
You would just sold it off.
Yeah. Or just let it be, because, that's what it is. So all the products that Cipla is working with us on, whether it's the cough syrup, whether it's the pain products, we actively jointly believe that there is a lot of growth potential. And we believe that their business model can, do justice to that growth much faster than we could. And we are choosing to then put our resources behind the more scientifically driven products where we believe we can drive it. So it's really a choice of it's all about growth. And it's a choice of, where we put our resources versus tap into partners.
True. So is that some learnings or, is this going to be one of the key linchpin of your strategy, growth strategy, that you will have these kind of, strategic partnerships, which is help you scale, and it also effectively ensures good capital allocation where you know where you have to put your resources.
Yeah, it's a very
Is it
integral
a
part
test
of
case
our.
right now, or will you be open to more such deals for other products within your portfolio?
No, I mean, I think the answer is yes and yes. I think this is definitely a very big partnership for us. And secondly, we are always, we're always continuously going to be looking at, other, assets within our portfolio that can be growing much faster together with partners. Or we do it ourselves, or sometimes it's joint. For example, 2 years ago, we launched one of our immunology products, Sibinco, together with Glenmark. And so we launched it. They launched it with us. Abrocitinib was a molecule. And so we did, and there's this Javarius Sibinco, and we launched it together. So I think that was a very different model. It was the first time when any pharma company was doing a partnership with an Indian company for a new molecular entity.
Correct.
So that is definitely a big part of our ethos, is where we believe partnerships can help, get more patients to get access. We will absolutely look
To
at
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, the other part of, being a CEO is capital allocation is, that's the number one priority. What has been your learnings in terms of, especially in the pharma business, how has your own capital allocation learnings evolved in the 3 years that you have been at Pfizer?
No, we touched upon a few of the learnings. I think the first was, not feeding all brands
With the same.
with the same muscle, but really picking and choosing, winners and where we believe resource can make a difference. And I think that's definitely been something we've done more actively. So if I look at, we often plot these, bar charts in terms of percent of sales versus percent of resource, and that's becoming more and more
Dynamic?
it's definitely dynamic, and is becoming more and more prioritized in terms of resource allocation. And sometimes it comes because we choose to do it. Sometimes it comes when we partner. So, the resources come down. So that is one piece, which is, how to allocate between brands. The second is also within a brand, where to invest, right? And so I have learned myself through this experience is that, given the scientific differentiation of our products, we are putting a lot more money behind that scientific story, whether it's through our medical resources, whether it's through doing clinical studies, whether it's doing real world evidence collection, whether it's investing a lot more money training our salespeople to be much more sharper when it comes to scientific communication. So it's also about choice within a brand on how to invest. So we haven't gone, even with vaccination, we haven't gone down the path of consumer branding when it comes to vaccination, because we strongly believe that adult vaccination, the consumer still looks at their doctor, and the doctor conviction is most important when they're doing vaccinations of 60 plus, 50 plus, 75 plus. So we focused our resources there. So I think resource allocation comes in different shapes and sizes. I think the first is across brands. The second is within a brand across different levers that can drive growth.
So adult vaccines is a new area of growth, or segment that you're betting big on?
No, we've been working on it for the last 3 years. I think we're beginning to see, we just launched a new molecule, a 20-valent pneumococcal vaccination, PCV20, Prevnar 20. And it's a single shot, so it's like,
Was it driven by a certain study that you thought that there is going to be a case for?
No, Prevnar has been a legacy brand for us. We launched for the last 25 years, we've been in this space. We launched PCV7, then we launched PCV13, now we launched PCV20, and hopefully a lot more to come. And so it's not, and this launch was actually in other markets was even before we launched in India. But the big unique thing about PCV20, it's a single shot vaccine that you just need one and you're done. And we are beginning to see we're seeing the growth year on year with adult vaccination. Flu right now, even flu vaccines, which seem to be much more widely used. About, on an average, on an annual basis, if you take a guess, what percent of people who should get a flu vaccine actually get a flu vaccine? Wild guess.
20?
I wish. So, in reality, it's about 2%. 2% of the adult population is actually getting vaccinated year on year with flu. And we are not even there yet. So, like I said, the headroom is huge because, but we have to start where the need is the most. We have to start where the
But
priority
it's
is the
a push
highest.
product than a pull product, right? In that sense. And only if the doctor kind of says, or it's very rare that a consumer or an adult consumer will go up and say that this is the vaccine that I want.
Yeah, I mean, the doctor needs to be convinced. The word of mouth does make a difference. We see that, but and now we're seeing that when we have this single shot vaccine, it's making a difference. More and more people are asking about it. But you're absolutely right. The doctor conviction is very important. Because when they're looking at patients, they are thinking of treating what the patient, a cardiovascular doctor will be looking at cardiovascular symptoms, a diabetologist would be looking at diabetes, right? So it takes a lot more of a holistic approach to think of vaccinations.
Right.
And they would look at their doctors. So I think that's why we focused our resources on, driving the awareness, the education, the scientific belief with doctors.
Yeah. Now, in the coming years, where do you see growth emerging from? And, what is the target that you have kept in terms of, is that a revenue milestone that you are chasing?
There always is, otherwise I would not be doing my job. And as soon as we hit it, we'll be the first to know. So yes, that is a milestone. But jokes
What
aside,
will be let's say, what are the growth planks or the growth pillars that will lead
very
to that?
similar to what we've already invested on. So if I look at the areas, cardiovascular, vaccines, oncology, anti-infectives, these are the areas where we see, and migraine now, because we launched a drug in migraine last year. So I think these are the 4 or 5 areas where we are, where we are really believing a lot of our growth will come from. In vaccination, it's a whole portfolio of respiratory vaccinations. In oncology, it's a portfolio of products, whether right now it's lung and multiple myeloma. We're looking to launch in many other disease areas within cancer. So it'll be within these buckets. But yeah, these would remain the growth planks for the future.
And in terms of investments, where will be the new areas? I mean, in manufacturing, where will the resources go towards? Are you increasing your, capacities, or by any chance?
No, I mean, manufacturing wise, already 70% of what we sell in India, we actually make in India.
Correct.
Either directly, about a third of it is coming from our plant in Goa, about 33%. And about 35-37% is coming from, third-party manufacturers across the way, about 12 or 13.
So you won't want to take advantage of the PLI, or it depends on a revenue threshold that you're not?
Yeah, I think the PLI, we've not gone into the PLI scheme at this point, but wherever possible, we're always looking to see whether we can bring manufacturing to the country. So most recently, one of our anti-infectives, we are looking to produce in India, which we were importing for the last 2-3 years. So there's always a desire to look at how we can bring it to the country. But right now, about 25-28% is imported. And I would expect, given the new launches we are planning, given the growth of some of our oncology medication, of which very few we make in India, I would imagine this 25-30% would probably continue. Yeah.
So one last question, Meenakshi, as a leader, what has been your leadership lessons that you've learned? And especially now, considering that there are very few women CEOs in India, what is your one advice to an budding mid-management woman who's looking, for a leadership role?
So two very different questions. Maybe I'll
questions.
start with the leadership lessons. I think, it's not, I'm sure you do many of these in conversations. You've probably heard this a few times. But I think the first is focus really pays off. I think picking a few things and doing them absolutely extremely well is very critical. So I think that I've seen now in action for the last 3 years. Focus is absolutely key. There's no substitute for focus. We tried growing everything. We did not succeed. We tried growing a few things. We absolutely succeeded. So that is something that we are looking at. And to that end, not just, also looking at multiple go-to-market models like the Cipla partnership to see how else we can grow the products that have a potential to grow. I think the second is, the basics. Being brilliant at execution is highly underrated sometimes. We talked about Unilever as a great example of execution, but we've seen that as well. We've over the last 2 years, we've focused a lot of our energy on every bit of execution, whether it's about our salespeople, whether it's about our marketing, whether it's about our medical organization, our supply chain. On every place we've defined certain execution metrics, and just being absolutely brilliant at execution, leaving no stone unturned, it pays off. It pays off in terms of speed. It pays off in terms of cost, efficiency. So I think that, loving execution is, I think, a key requirement of a good leader in our country. Strategy is great. I'm all for
Everything boils
strategy,
down to execution.
but it's really quite important, right? So I think because that when the rubber hits the road, you need to just deliver. And particularly in an industry like ours, where patients depend on us, where doctors depend on us, if we said we will deliver to a patient with our patient access programs, it better be there. If we're saying we will deliver scientific knowledge to certain doctors, we better make sure it's of the best possible quality. So there's no compromise. For our quality organization, so much energy goes in making sure we release the best possible products, and wherever we have a doubt, we do not release. It means a lot of cost at times, but that's just it. There is no choice here. It's not a choice. So I think that has been a big thing, which is being very brutal, very aggressive about execution. And I think the last piece is, it's been quite a journey for us in terms of also kind of working with all our stakeholders. And I think our government is at a point where there's been a real step up in focus in health. You saw that with the budget, with the Bioshakti mission. And so I think what we are also trying to do is make sure that we are completely in step with the growth agenda of our budget. And the more in step we are, the more we are trying to do things together, the more likely everybody is to succeed. So, whether it's, ensuring our medicines have access into some of the insurance programs. How do we make sure that we are bringing our drugs faster? How do we make sure that we're doing a lot more global clinical studies in India so that data can be generated, which makes our regulators feel a lot more confident to approve the product? When it comes to pricing, how do we make sure we show a lot more transparency on our patient access programs so that there's no perception of a black box? It's all very transparent, and then we can do it together. So I think that whole, building that trust between the public and the private sector is really important, because without that, a sector like health cannot take off. And I think there's still work to do, but I feel we as a company and we as a country have made quite a lot of progress.
And your one advice for aspiring women leaders?
I think I would say, I think it goes for anyone in a sense, but, in our country, and you can see it in our government as well, it is really, kind of, if you're clear what you want to do and you have a passion and a conviction, gender does not come in the way. I think sometimes gender is more a topic in our minds than it is in somebody else's mind. So I've never felt that it's coming in the way. Sometimes it's actually, yes, there can be challenges, but I've always, whenever I'm in any of these conversations or a mentoring conversation, I'm like, first you need to fight that battle in your own head and in your own home. And once your head is very clear that you are an equal, and once your home is very clear, it can be your partner, your in-laws, your parents. Once you've got that sorted, the rest of the world falls in place. Very often, those are the areas which are not always there. But once you have those in place, nobody can stop you. So I think I'm not in a position to give advice, but that's what I truly believe.
Yeah.
That, the journey starts from within, and then the rest will follow. Yeah.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for taking time out. Keep watching Fortune India in Conversation for more such insights. Thank you.